The death of the Buddha, a last journey, a reimagined historical event. The moon hung low in the sky, bathing the Sala grove in an ethereal glow. The leaves shimmered faintly, whispering to each other in a language only the forest understood. Beneath the ancient trees lay Gautama Buddha, his frail body a stark contrast to the timeless wisdom that radiated from his being. Around him knelt his disciples, their faces a mosaic of grief and reverence. The forest was alive with stillness, a paradox of quiet energy that seemed to mirror the state of Nirvana itself. Ananda, his ever-loyal attendant, knelt closest to his master. His hands trembled as they clutched at his robe, his face streaked with silent tears. "Blessed One," Ananda whispered, his voice catching in his throat, "the world is vast, and the people are still lost. Who will guide them when you are gone?" The Buddha opened his eyes, and in their depths lay the unfathomable calm of one who had seen the cycles of existence stripped of their illusions. A faint smile, as soft as the moonlight, graced his lips. "Ananda," he said, his voice a gentle current, "do you cling to the illusion that this form is eternal? The Dhamma is the true refuge. It is not me, not this body, that has ever been your guide. All compounded things must dissolve. Only the unconditioned remains." The journey to Kushinagar had begun weeks earlier, under different skies. At the town of Pava, the Buddha had accepted a meal offered by a blacksmith named Kunda. The offering was simple, a dish of sukara madhava, its precise nature a subject of later debate among scholars. But what mattered was not the food itself, but the intention behind it. "Blessed One," Kunda had said, bowing low, "it is my greatest joy to serve you this meal." The Buddha looked at Kunda with the profound understanding that came from seeing the interconnectedness of all actions. "Kunda," he said, "your offering is pure, born of faith and devotion. Whatever follows, let no blame fall upon you. Merit flows from intention, not from outcome." Later that evening, the sharp pains began. The Buddha's expression remained serene, but his body betrayed the strain. Ananda rushed to his side, his voice tinged with panic. "Blessed One, what has happened? Let me call a healer." The Buddha raised a hand, his calm unwavering. "No, Ananda, this body is like a worn-out cart, held together by sheer will. Pain is a reminder of the body's impermanence, but even so, I have one final journey to complete." Each step of the journey was a testament to the Buddha's resolve. The path wound through villages and forests, where people gathered to catch a glimpse of the Enlightened One. They laid flowers at his feet and bowed deeply, their faces alight with devotion. At one stop, a young monk named Subhadra approached, his eyes burning with unasked questions. "Blessed One," he said, hesitating, "is it true that there are other paths to liberation, that there are other teachers as wise as you?" A murmur of disapproval rippled through the disciples, but the Buddha silenced it with a glance. Turning to Subhadra, he spoke with the infinite patience of one who saw beyond doubt and certainty. "Subhadra," he said, "do not waste your time comparing paths. Wisdom lies not in debating, but in walking the path. The eightfold path is complete and sufficient. Follow it with diligence, and you will see the end of suffering." The monk bowed deeply, his questions dissolved in the clarity of the Buddha's words. As they reached the Sala grove of Kushinagar, the Buddha paused. The air was heavy with the scent of blooming flowers, though it was not their season. He turned to Ananda and said, "Prepare a resting place here between the twin Sala trees. The time of my passing is near." Ananda, though stricken with grief, obeyed. He helped the Buddha lie down on his right side, his head pointing north, his face serene. The trees seemed to bow over him, their branches heavy with blossoms that fell like tears. Unable to contain his sorrow, Ananda withdrew from the gathering. His heart was a storm of anguish and helplessness. When the Buddha noticed his absence, he called for him. "Ananda," he said gently when his attendant returned, Why do you grieve? Have I not taught you that separation is inevitable? All that arises must pass away. Ananda knelt, his head bowed. But, Blessed One, what will we do without you? How will we carry on? The Buddha placed a hand on Ananda's shoulder. Take refuge in the Dhamma. Be lamps unto yourselves, Ananda. The truth is a light that cannot be extinguished. As the moon rose higher, casting its silver glow over the grove, the Buddha gathered his remaining strength. His disciples leaned in, their breaths held as though the very air depended on his words. Monks, he began, his voice steady despite his frailty. All compounded things are impermanent. Strive with diligence to realize this truth. Let not negligence mar your practice. He paused, his gaze sweeping over them. Harmony is the key. Quarrels and divisions arise from clinging to the self. Let the Dhamma be your guide, and the Sangha your strength. His words sank into their hearts like rain into parched earth. For many, it was as though he had given them their first glimpse of Nirvana, a state beyond birth and death, beyond self and other. As the Buddha's breath grew fainter, his mind moved through the meditative absorptions. To those watching, it seemed as though he were navigating the cosmos of the mind, his consciousness untouched by the transient world. For the Buddha, Nirvana was not a place or a state in the conventional sense. It was the cessation of all clinging, the extinguishing of the flames of desire, aversion, and delusion. It was freedom, not just from suffering, but from the cycles of becoming. In his final moments, the Buddha's awareness rested in the unconditioned. The boundaries of self dissolved, and he merged with the vast, formless truth that underpins all existence. The grove was silent as the Buddha's breathing ceased. The disciples sat motionless, their eyes fixed on their teacher. The air was thick with the weight of the moment, as though the universe itself had paused. Ananda whispered, "The Blessed One has passed beyond." The moon seemed to dim, and even the wind stilled in reverence. But within the hearts of those present, the flame of the Dhamma burned brighter than ever. The days that followed were marked by rituals and mourning. The Buddha's body was prepared for cremation, and his relics became the center of fierce disputes among kings and clans, each wishing to honor him. Ananda, now carrying the mantle of leadership, stood before the assembled monks. His voice, though heavy with grief, was firm. "Brothers, the Blessed One taught us that the greatest tribute lies not in relics but in practice. Let us honor him by living the Dhamma." Though the Buddha had passed, his teachings endured. The Sala grove became a place of pilgrimage, a reminder of life's impermanence and the path to liberation. His final words, "Strive on with diligence," echoed through generations, guiding countless seekers. The Buddha had left the world, but in doing so, he illuminated a path that would never fade, a flame that would light the way for all who sought freedom.